Hi, and welcome to Rain Radio, where we have juicy conversations that lead to powerful transformations. We are your hosts. I'm Lila Sage.
And I'm Naomi Calderon. And today we're going to be talking about sovereignty and owning your power, how being queen of the world and doing all the things is awesome. But what do you do when life suggests you slow down? This is going to be a great conversation. So grab your journal, your drink, put on your crown, and let's chat. So, Lila, what you drinking?
I am only drinking one beverage today.
Woohoo.
I'm having English breakfast black tea.
Ooh, yum.
What are you drinking?
I've got my ginger honey lemon going on today.
Yum.
About needing a refill, too. It seemed like a perfect way to start a day slow and easy.
Mm-hmm. I did that.
Speaking of slow and easy, I know you and I have been talking offline a bit about just the change in the seasons and our desire to kind of hibernate and, pull all the comfy blankets around us and veg. So, What's up?
Winter arrived early in Middle America. Fall was very disrespectful. It only showed up for like 6 days of its 12 weeks and then was big, all right, deuces. Here's some snow. So there's that. There is all of the change that has been occurring in my world. I ran down a list of what has been new and different in my life in the last 12 and a half months, and one of my friends was like, oh my God, how are you still alive? Lots of naps, people, lots of naps. But most specifically, the last 3 months, I think end of summer, start of fall for me was like new year, new Lila, even though we are nowhere near January. And I think that is inspiring me to slow down and integrate. Like for me, this is an integration incubator.
So my little seasonal nerd just popped her head up, going, oh my God, that is so absolutely freaking perfect. Don't you see? So when I step back and I look at it,
me is like,
what?
Tell us everything.
So from a seasonal aspect, if I step back and I look at the big picture, it's like, well, duh, of course, Lila. A new year, new you. It might not be January, but frankly, if you're living in the Northern Hemisphere, the whole January, new year, new you is kind of like, oh, okay. You might want to put that off at least till March, but all right. The reason being, summer is new life. That's when we give birth to things. And then, or spring is, summer is when all of the things we planted start bearing fruit and blossoming, and there's this explosion of color and foods and energy. And then we in Chinese medicine refer to it as late summer. Some people are like, oh, we're getting into the early part of fall. It's really late summer. It's the harvest season. Because in Chinese medicine, there's 5 seasons. And that late summer, that's when we harvest. That's when community happens. That's when all those things we planted and watered and grew and cultivated and nurtured, that's when we're harvesting the fruits from those. And like you said, the last 3 months have been all of the changes from this past year really coming to fruition. That's exactly seasonally how life is designed, how our seasons operate. And it's perfect and beautiful that you followed that without necessarily setting out to. And it makes sense that now, like you said, it's that incubation time, it's that integration time. Now we're heading into the yin time of the year as we're in fall. And as you noted, fall was disrespectful and brought winter with it. We're going to be experiencing that here. It doesn't sound like winter to you, but it's our version of winter. Mm-hmm. We're going from 95 to 55 in the span of 3 days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
as our high.
Just deeply disrespectful. I was like, it is October. What do you mean snow?
Yeah, I in some ways I don't feel quite so. I feel bad for you, but I don't feel quite so bad because that's one thing I've sometimes missed about living in the Midwest is here it seems like we don't, like we'll have a couple of days sprinkled in October that feel sort of fallish, and then it goes back to this crazy summer temp, and then all of a sudden, boom, we're in winter, and it's like what. I got gypped. I want my fall. But, so, I don't feel so bad because you guys didn't get it either this year.
I got like 5 days.
Right?
We had perfect fall. I don't remember in the last 7 years since I moved back going, wow, this is fall weather. This is amazing. This is how it's supposed to be. We had 6 of those days this year. That's it. And then no.
And then break out your boots and your sweater and your parkas and
so disrespectful.
Very much so. And
I read
so
Go ahead.
You're getting into, even though we are technically in fall, you're getting into that fall winter transition, and that's the yin time of the year. We've gone from this yang energy, this explosive, moving, doing, creating, hot, high energy, and we're moving into the yin time of the year. And then when we hit winter, we're going to be in the most yin time of the yin time. And that calls us to be like the trees and the bears and to hibernate and to go within. So it's perfect that that's what you're transitioning into and that you're feeling that call. Mm-hmm. But when life or the seasons tell you to slow down, but you got all the things, or if you're like me and your definition of sovereignty and owning your power is being powerful and doing all the things, so that might require a little bit of a redefinition for me. What do you do when life says slow down, but you got all the stuff you have to do that you're responsible for?
I slow down. I have learned, though, depression has taught me very well to take really, really good care of myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so today, for instance, before we started recording, I was saying I really just want to be in my house. I don't want to people. I don't want to venture out into the land of Walmart, of all places. I don't want to stand in return lines. I have like 3 stores to go to return things to. My brain's going to explode. And it's Sunday. I don't have to go to work today. It seems like the perfect day to do all of those things. Mm-hmm. And my system, not just my body, but my mind and my energy are like, how about you act like your period just ended and your birthday's coming soon and you get your journal and a mug of tea and find a quiet spot in your house and like be. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I have to feed children. They get really upset if you don't do that. And my bank account says, how about you grocery shop instead of getting takeout? And so does my body. Like, my body would much rather have a burger that I make than something from, like, the DQ drive-thru. So that's what I'm doing. I'm going to the quietest grocery store. I'm going to grab 2 days worth of food, and I'm going to be in my house the rest of the time, hanging out with people, snuggling, reading, journaling, Netflixing, YouTubing, Pinteresting. And what I have learned is that when I don't fight that urge, when I honor it and acknowledge it, that is probably the most sovereign thing that I can do. because I am living not just for the present moment, but I am also living for the future. And if I push when it's not required or optimal for me to push, I'm going to be flat on my ass in a few days. And my week says that's not feasible.
So as you're saying all that, what I really hear is that truly, if I think sovereignty and owning your power is being okay with saying, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing for me. This is right for my body. This is right for me in this moment, in this time.
Yeah.
That's ownership.
Absolutely.
That's power.
And how interesting is it that we have defined it the ways that we have defined it? But what were you going to ask?
Agreed, 100%. And so in looking at that, it's a great place with the definition to start dissecting where's my definition coming from? Is this truly my definition of power? Is there a should hiding in there? Oh, I should be doing all the things today. Okay. So whose definition are we following? So recently I was with a group of people, really wonderful people, many of them healers, very amazing. Some of them, their value systems are different from one another because we each have our own personal core value systems. And they align enough that there's a lot of common ground. But one of them is, of their top 3 core values, money and success, and for them success is measured by money, is very important to them. Not a good or a bad, just an observance. And this person talks about how when they were first growing their business, like they would go to 3 networking events every single day, 5 days a week. And they were more exhausted than when they were in boot camp in the Army by the time they were done. And so in my mind, there's like, wow, this person is, and this person is like crazy, stupid successful. And it's like, doesn't bat an eye over buying a $3,500 pair of shoes.
Okay.
And that kind of income. And so there's part of me that's like, okay, I want to build my business. What do? You do what successful people do, right? Emulate them. And so there's this part of me that's like, I should be out there doing exactly that. But I have to tell you that the thought of doing that, just the thought, wears me out, let alone actually physically going and doing it. And so there's this whole, how am I defining power? Well, I'm defining power by somebody else's value system. If I'm like, but I need to go do that because that's what it means to be sovereign. That's what's going to get my income where, I'm buying, well, I don't know if I'd ever buy a $300 or $3,500 pair of shoes, honestly. I don't know.
I would.
Would you?
I'm an interesting kind of duck. It depends on a lot of different factors. But if I had Bill Gates money, I can see circumstances under which $3,500 would be an appropriate amount of money to pay for shoes.
Maybe the fact that hers are shredding her feet is what has me going, I don't think I would.
Absolutely never would I buy an uncomfortable pair of shoes for even $3, let alone $3,500.
Yeah, don't cheat your feet, people. But so
shoes are a weird thing for me. Hilarious Lila moment, side note. So when I lived in Memphis, I was friends with a woman who did fashion, and she had a spread in the local paper where she did makeovers once a month, and somebody flaked on her at the last minute, and she was like, Lila, do you want a makeover? You want to be in the paper? And I'm like, yes, of course I do. Put makeup on, clothes on me. Gimme. So I'm wearing a $1,200 T-shirt.
T-shirt?
T-shirt.
The fuck's it made out of?
Chemical.
I'm sorry, if some silkworm didn't push that fabric out of his ass, that's ridiculous.
And I was like, no. I would ruin that shirt in 3.2 seconds in my real life. There's no way. Right. There is no way I would pay $1,200 for a T-shirt. But shoes are a different experience. They go on my feet. They protect my feet. Are these shoes going to keep me warm when I'm, like, trooping through middle America in the winter? Like, what are these shoes going to do for me? Because if they're going to, like, comfort and love my feet, which prefer to be barefoot, by the way, then I am in for $3,500 for shoes. They also have to last, like, a bajillion years. Yes. But I knew I was going to murder that T-shirt, like, instantly. There's no way. No way. So, yeah, that's my weird.
I can see that difference. Yeah. But those shoes have to be comfortable. Yeah, we're going to get on a whole different side tangent. But, yes, it has to, yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's shoes on our terms.
Shoes on our terms, that's right. Yeah, my $150 pair of cowboy boots, which the guy who just replaced the heels said, yeah, these you'd actually pay about $300 for today, because I've been wearing them for 15 freaking years. Because they're quality and they last and they're fabulous and I love them and all the things, you know. Yep. So yeah, there is somewhat of a you get what you pay for in certain ways. I still was like, whoa. But so that's her definition, her value system. And when I think of going and doing all of those things, there's this little naggy voice in the back when I'm just like, I don't have the energy for that right now. And this naggy voice going, well, then you're not obviously very committed to your business. You know, all the bullshit comments that the peanut gallery comes up with. But in talking with my... Some days they're a little crabby pants. Some days they're very supportive, but some days they're little crabby pants about that and a little judgy. But talking with my acupuncturist, it's like, oh, why am I just, maybe I just need some different herbs so that I got more energy. And she's like, girl, no, you're yin deficient and you're also yang deficient. And you've got a yang excess, you know, all the things. Some of you are probably like, I don't know what the fuck she just said. But basically what it means is my adrenals are tapped out, which means I don't have extra energy to go to 3 networking events a day, 5 days a week. It would burn me out and potentially put me in the hospital, but definitely flat on my back for multiple weeks. So owning that power provides an opportunity to step back and say, okay, there is more than one way to build a business. There's more than one way to get all the mom stuff done that you have to get done. There's more than one way to fill in the blank. Whatever those I need to get this done is on your list. And if life is suggesting you slow down, what can you delegate? What can you eliminate? And what can you actually do? Get honest. For you, if it was just groceries, what about one of the grocery delivery services? You pay a little bit more.
So I am a bit of a control freak about my produce. And at this point in my financial life, I get food stamps. And so the most convenient thing that I could do is do Walmart pickup.
Okay.
But then again,
produce control freak.
About my produce. Yeah. And also I would need to plan in advance to make that a part of my reality, because I don't do a lot of Walmart produce, let me be honest. Because I have not seen that our Walmart has same day pickup.
Oh.
Yeah.
Do you guys have a high V down there? I know that's a Midwest regional thing.
What's it called?
High V? No?
We don't have one, but I've heard of it.
I was going to say, because I know they do the pickup as well, because that's what my sister does. Because she works 4 10-hour days, and her other day off is often spent helping my mom with stuff.
Yeah.
Or catching up on errands and doctor's appointments and all the other things you can't do when you're working a 10-hour shift.
Yep.
So, but at the end of a 10-hour day, the last thing she wants to do is go into the grocery store. So it isn't always feasible, but that's where we get to start looking and picking and choosing. Wouldn't you agree? What you were saying that there was a whole bunch of stuff you were cutting from your calendar.
I'm literally just grocery shopping. That's it. That's all that's happening today. I have things that need to be returned. I have business stuff I would like to do. And I might do it. Like I got up, I did some yoga. I feel pretty fantastic now that my body has moved. So business stuff might get done today. But if it doesn't, there's always mañana. And the thing for me that's really awesome is when I said, like, depression has taught me, I have learned to really discern what is important. When my babies were babies, they're not babies anymore. My middle baby is bigger than me, like literally taller than I am. But I was, the tension headaches were
not that hard.
It's not, y'all. I'm fun-sized, but he's 13 and he's taller than me, so not a baby anymore. Still my baby. But when the tension headaches were at their most severe, they were 1, 3, and 5, 6, 4, and 2. And so their Saturdays looked like a fridge stocked with sippy cups and a table full of toddler food. So, like, you can get your own, choose your own adventure meal. There's fruit, there's pastries, have at it, enjoy yourself, bring me the baby if he needs a diaper change. Because I could not pick up my head until like 3 p.m., 3 p.m. Like, if it came off the pillow, the whole world threatened to end. It was not a fun time. And that taught me priorities. The priorities are feed the children. Feed the babies, love the babies. Everything else can wait. And it's weird because as I'm saying this now and I'm thinking back, like, I really did think I needed to find a job. I needed to be working on my business. I needed. And here we are 9 years later. And clearly I didn't exactly need any of that stuff because we are all still here. We're happy. We're healthy. We're well adjusted. Some of us are in therapy, but that's part of life on planet Earth.
Right.
So do you really need to do everything that's on your to-do list? What is really important to you? What are your personal values, like you said earlier? Spending time with my babies is far more important than any financial value I have ever had. Because they're never going to be 15, 13, and 11 ever again. We can't get this time back, but I can make more money. We can move into another house. I can buy a different car. I can travel the planet. What I can't ever do is be with my 15, 13, 11-year-old ever again, because the 11-year-old is going to be 12 in like a month.
There's an element of the whole Buddhist principle of you can't step in the same river twice going on with that.
Absolutely. And my priorities, my values are family.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really care what we're doing. We can all be vegging on the couch, each reading our own separate book with our feet intertwined, and that works for me.
Right.
I can be in my room. They can be in their living room. My children have their own living room. My life is weird, and I love it. But I am accessible to them. At any point, they can be like, Mom, and I am here. That is important to me, more than labels on their shoes or clothes or whatever. So, yeah.
Well, and that's where, and that it would probably take us down a different rabbit hole, but that's where knowing and understanding what are your values, what are your priorities, what things are crowding out those things that can be eliminated or delegated or done at a different time, so that we're not burning ourselves out. So that, and here in America, to be honest, somebody asked me one day, they're like, well, how do you know if you have adrenal fatigue? How do you know if your adrenals are burned out? Like, are you American? Yeah. Well, they are. There's some stage, because there's 4 stages of adrenal burnout. And it's like you are in one of the 4 stages, chances are, because very few Americans, very few, small percentage, completely made up number, but I would say 7%. I don't really know what number it is, but it is a small amount of Americans who aren't dealing with, whether they know it or not, one of the stages of adrenal burnout, adrenal fatigue, because that's the culture we live in, that's the time we live in, that's the environment we live in, that's the mindset we live in.
Yeah. I am not equipped to go. I'm a little more equipped after my acupuncture session. I am going to become her own personal, commercial. Gotta say, Dr. Lindsay, she's amazing.
Yeah. If you're in the St. Louis area, go see her. If you're in my area, I can hook you up.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, it saves the world.
But all of those yin-yang channel things that Naomi was talking about earlier that made your brain go, what? My brain did the same thing. What I know is Naomi has been saying spleen to me for 3 years, and probably the universe has been saying spleen to me since before then. Apparently, the answer to the spleen question was acupuncture, because my sleep and my energy levels have been absolutely amazing since she did whatever acupuncture voodoo magic she did. And this is why I keep going back to visit her.
And your pulses are improving, aren't they?
My what's improving?
Your pulses. When she takes your pulses, she can tell that your kidney energy is up, my guess is, and your spleen. Everything's probably happier.
I have no
Never
idea.
mind. We'll move on.
We will talk about that after the call, because I do have thoughts.
Well, just know she's sleeping better, and thankfully for that, because that is the time that our body's trying to rest and restore and repair. And if our sleep is for shit, well, guess what? Our body can't rest, restore, and repair. And if we're not resting, restoring, or repairing, we sure as hell can't step into our power, because we ain't got none. We've drained those batteries.
Absolutely. So back to our original thought of, how do I do all of the things when literal life is telling me to have a seat? My answer is have a seat. Don't do all of the things, because doing all of the things will actually make your life worse and take you out of your power.
Say more about that.
Well, when you said if I go to 3 networking events a day, 5 days a week, I will be flat on my back for weeks, if not hospitalized. There's no being in your power while you're flat on your back, or worse.
Especially if you're not choosing to be flat on your back. One thing if I'm like, I'm going to lay here in my bed, on my back, staring at my ceiling, doing nothing but listening to some, I'm not listening to Christmas music, it's too damn early. But whatever. Old 50s music, whatever. That's one thing, if you're choosing. But yeah, if you're flat on your back because you burnt out and you can't move, yeah, you're right. There's no power in that. There's no sovereignty. You're not owning your life. You got kicked in the ass by life.
Mm-hmm. You actually said the magic word. Choose. Mm-hmm. So if all of the things that you want to do, but life is telling you, have a seat, if they are things that feel like, things that light you up, things that you're like, oh, yeah, I can't wait to do that, that's also a different energy than these things need to be done or these things have to be done. So either way, whether there are things that need to be done or whether there are things that super genuinely light you up, you are in your power, you are on your throne, you are queen of your world when you are in choice about it. And then I would say honor the choices that you make. Don't make a choice and then poo-poo your choice, because that's another way to not be in your power. So I am choosing to grocery shop, the end. And everything else that happens today will be icing on my Sunday cake. And I am in full embodiment of that, full ownership of that, and I will not be judging myself for all of the things that I am, quote unquote, not doing today.
Because what's interesting when you say it that way, the not doing, the resting, is doing something. Mm-hmm. It can be so easy to be like, I really should be doing X, Y, and Z rather than sitting here doing nothing. Well, you're not doing nothing. You're taking care of your body. You're supporting your adrenals. You're getting some rest. You're cocooning. You're whatever. You're still doing something. We're not just busy for the sake of busy. Mm-hmm. We're prioritizing. So sometimes we have to reframe how we label shit too, to have a different understanding and relationship to it.
Yeah, I think that's the key to all of that. That is the key to this whole conversation, is what are you telling yourself and how are you telling yourself the things that you're telling yourself? Yeah. Are you being kind, loving, and empowered, or are you being your own mean girl?
Your own mean girl? Are you being judgy pants? Oh, well, so-and-so did it that way, and I should be doing it that way. If I'm not, I'm obviously not committed, or, obviously I don't care about my... Really?
That's so interesting. I haven't had that. And it's curious. I am. I'm very lucky and I'm super grateful. And it's curious that I've never had that. But it came as like rebellion to me. Mm. It was like, I remember reading GoPro by Eric Warr. Mm-hmm. Great book, has been touted. And, I don't think I have a copy of it anymore. Anyways, I digress. He starts out one of the chapters by saying, think back to when you were in high school and what car did you want to drive? It was never a Honda Civic. And I was like, no, it was an Accord. I've always been fairly clear about who I am and have always been rather okay with it. The only time I was not okay was when I was trying to be something that I'm not. Mm-hmm. So my Young Living upline is a holistic nutritionist, and a certified aromatherapist. I cannot build my business the way she built hers. I do not have those credentials to stand on. And I have children, and I was broke. Like, she built her business on a damn near six-figure salary, so she had the $100 a month to put her auto ship. She didn't have babies at home. She wasn't depressed. Like, she had a whole different experience than I did, so I could not compare my work ethic to hers because we were not in the same place. And I've always had that lens of being like, am I capable of what that person is capable of? Are they in my shoes? And are our priorities the same? Because that's also a different situation.
And I think that's a perfect view of things. Not to say you couldn't be capable of doing the things she does now, when you're on the other side of depression. And it's one thing, sometimes it can be easy to use an excuse, oh, well, you don't understand because and come up with all these excuses why we can't do something. And sometimes it's just a realistic look of, this is my current situation, these are my current priorities, and that does not align with those.
And this is my capacity.
This is my capacity in this moment, and I can this business into all of those things. It's just not going to look the same. And being okay with the fact that it's not going to look the same.
Right.
We know, and I used to tell this to my personal training clients back in the day when I was still working as a trainer, is, when you're like, oh, I can't do one more push-up. And you just don't want to do another push-up, but you really do have it in you. Versus, I don't want to do I can't do another push-up. When your arms are so fatigued, you literally, truly can't do another push-up. Those are two very different things. It's the same phrase, I can't do another push-up. But we know when we're letting ourselves off the hook versus, no, that's the reality of right now.
And I will add to that, I'm glad you brought that up because it could sound like excuses. It's not excuses because I did not let it stop me. Right. I wasn't like, oh, you're a holistic nutritionist and you're a certified aromatherapist, therefore I'm not going to put in any effort. I put in effort. That's how I know I wasn't in a position. I wasn't in a position at that time to grow that business the way that she grew her business because I just didn't have it. Like, it took me 3 months to save up to buy my first oil because I had just left my husband and I was waitressing and I was living with my mom with 2 babies. And then, like, immediately after buying that oil, I found out I was pregnant and found myself with 2 weeks to find a new place to live. Like, it was not for it was not for lack of trying on my part that it did not happen. So I'm glad you said that because it could have sounded like excuses. It could have sounded like I was saying I wasn't in the right place, and I wasn't, but I found that out through action. Not through sitting on my hands going, but I can't.
Right. Like you said, you still were doing things to make it happen. It just wasn't going to look the same. And I think that's where the comparisonitis piece can really derail us. So if you are feeling like, but I should be doing all the things because some other expert told you should, or because that's what you see your mentor doing, or that mentor did to get where they are, whether it's an upline, whether it's a coach, whether it's whatever, it's about being honest with yourself about where you're at. And if it's still your goal, keep it your goal. You may just need to approach it differently, maybe reaching that goal. I recently had a conversation with Jenny, who is, she's part of our Heart Over Ego radio compadres. So if you haven't tuned in there, you'll want to go check that out. And Jenny's amazing.
The Alchemy Sisters, and she is amazing.
Yes, and she and I were talking, and one of the messages she was getting It's like, well, probably shouldn't have been a big shock because, frankly, it's what my body had been telling me for some time. But she's like, I'm getting the message that right now you need to get quiet. You need to do less.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like part of me was kind of freaking out about that because I just transitioned out of a networking chapter and was looking at joining another one, and where do I go with this, and where do I need to be networking, and who do I need to be connecting with, and I should be doing this and that, blah, all the things. It's like, yeah, it's not what I'm getting. I'm like, but what do I go do then? And the panic starts to rise because here are all these things that I know one should do in business that should work, and instead I'm being told to get quiet and slow down and do less. There's a little hyperventilating going on.
Oh, this is so juicy. We're so over, so we're just going to keep going because this is great. So one of the things that I know is that action is secondary. Action is secondary in creation.
Mm-hmm.
Action is always secondary to energy. So I'm looking for like a good example. And the only thing that's in the front of my mind is the random strangers that showed up on my literal doorstep with money for me. But that's like a no action way of creating. So I'm looking for something else. And so that I don't confuse y'all, two random strangers showed up on my doorstep one day with cash. They were looking for me. They knew my name. They handed me an envelope. It was full of cash. I had never seen them before. I have not seen them since. That's all I have for that story.
Well, when you think of creation, let's just take something tangible that everybody could understand. Building a house.
Okay.
I'm not just going to get into action and go buy a bunch of nails and wood and start hammering shit together.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's the action of building a house. Okay, I realize anybody who actually has built a house, I get that there's probably other actions first, but you get what I'm saying. The creation process is I have to have a picture in my head. I have to decide what I want in that house. I have to have a vision of, I think I want a 3-bedroom house, and I want it to have 2.5 baths, and I want a sunroom, and I want a mother-in-law cottage. No, let's make that an art studio. You have to have some kind of a vision that fuels the action of building the house. And really any creation is like that, I think. Mm-hmm. And that visioning piece, that's the seasonal part I was talking about earlier. Winter is the time to pull forth and really dig in and contemplate and get that vision so that it can be birthed in the spring. So that's a seasonal thing too, but the whole creation process, I don't care what time of year you do it, it's that same thing. It's that inner contemplation that allows something to be birthed. Our culture, however, says you've got to do the yang side of things. The yang energy is the do mode, to get things done, to do it, instead of the yin energy of the be quiet and nurture and allow and embrace and flow. But that's also why our adrenals are all fucked up and jacked up and burned out. So if you are getting a nudge from the universe or your acupuncturist or Jenny or someone like that in your life or your body and it's saying slow down, do less. There's a great book, Do Less, Achieve More. And I read it years ago. I'm going to have to reread it, I think, because it keeps coming up. But listen to that guidance of the universe. Listen to that guidance of your body, the wisdom that your body has. Listen to the wisdom of those who are saying, slow down. It doesn't mean don't do stuff. It doesn't mean don't network. It doesn't mean don't go to the grocery store or don't get groceries. maybe it means get creative about how you do those things.
Mm-hmm.
Lila jokingly said, well, maybe not so jokingly, need to hire a personal chef. Okay, great. If that's in your budget to do, that's actually, I've got a friend who is one, and she goes, it's not nearly as expensive as people think it is. So
I need a butler too.
Do that kind of thing. Look at what are my options. If I'm too busy to cook, because that's the excuse I hear all the time from people, is what would it take to get a personal chef? Can't go that route? Great. What would it take to get something like Blue Apron or HelloFresh or something like that that delivers the meals to your doorstep? What would it take to just have grocery pickup or grocery delivery? So look at the different options that would streamline some shit so that you don't burn out.
Mm-hmm.
What's possible? Yeah, brainstorm the what's possible, but listen to and honor what, and I'm saying this, people, as much for myself as for anybody listening. Honor what the universe, the gift it's trying to give you.
Mm-hmm.
There's something juicy in that getting quiet.
Always, always. So I would like to rewind to the beginning, where the beginning of this part of the conversation where you were talking about building a house.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to give a different example, because even though the creation part, the like design part is more of a quiet, it's not a physical doing, but it is sort of it's a mental doing.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk about two other creations that had a lot less physical doing involved.
Mm-hmm.
So over the summer, can I talk about the polls and the creation from it?
Sure.
Okay. So over the summer, Naomi and I decided to do energy polls every day, and we tapped out after like 30 days. And from that, seemingly out of the blue, because you weren't looking to start working with corporate clients, right? You were just like pulling in a specific amount of money. Am I accurate with that?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So then suddenly out of the blue, here comes this opportunity for her to have this corporate client and sort of expand her business in this whole new direction that she had never even thought of before. And literally all we were doing was getting together once a day for a few minutes to be the energy of a specific amount of money for her. And voila, it showed up. And it sounds like magic. I mean, there was action that had to be done, but that is what I mean when I say being comes first.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And another fun example of that was I was carless for like 4 years, which is a fun time when you have 3 children and you live in American society and you don't live in the inner city. Public transportation in the places that I live sucked. And this was before Uber was like super popular, and I probably couldn't have afforded it then anyways. My financial life was not conducive to Uber. And I had a couple $1,000s that I was willing to turn into a vehicle. And I was actively car shopping. I was on Craigslist. I was on Auto Trader. I was all the places, and I literally could not find a car. Could not. And I sat myself down, and I asked for the energy of my new car. And I got intimate with what it felt like, and I asked for my car's name, because I am a name kind of person. It is a physical anchor for me. It helps me like create more. And within the week, I had found my next car. So that is what I mean when I say like energy comes before creation.
Yep. And it requires sometimes getting still, sometimes apparently a lot of being still. But also being intentional.
Yes.
That's where the power comes in.
Ooh. Okay. So my thought was, yeah, don't just veg in Netflix. But sometimes that is required.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes vegging with Disney Plus, Disney Plus has become the new Netflix according to Facebook. Sometimes Disney Plus or Netflix or YouTube is required, especially if you are in one of the later phases of adrenal fatigue, I would say. Like, I would schedule them into my calendar. I called them burnout days. They were intended to prevent the burnout, but nothing is required except the sofa and the remote and snacks. I sound like I should be like super unhealthy when I talk about food because I'm like cookies and popcorn, and I max out at 2 cookies most of the time, y'all.
Yeah, her version of binging on cookies, you guys, is yeah.
It's literally like 3 golden Oreos, and then I'm done. And so last story, and then we're probably going to go because this has gotten really long and amazing. So since part of the acupuncture is allergy, I guess, like releasing allergies, there's an allergy protocol. And the last thing we did was sugar. Since then, I have basically had 0. I've gone from being like Cookie Monster's little sister, where I have consumed way more sugar in the last 4 years than I did my entire life, to I'm not really interested in sugar anymore. So I'm curious to see what happens when I get my hand on another box of the lemon cookies, because that is the one cookie I can eat a whole box of.
It's very interesting, and yes, when you balance your body, what will shift, what you gravitate towards, both actual craving-wise, but also from a balance standpoint. Since starting this particular round of acupuncture, I'm becoming much more okay. I still have my days where there's like, no, I must go do all the things, but becoming much more okay with getting quiet and slowing down and looking at how living that lifestyle of slow and inner contemplation and purposely creating networking events and being more discerning with my time and my energy. Since starting the acupuncture, and part of it, I'm sure, is the conversations I'm having with my acupuncturist, becoming okay with all of that, so that when I do get the messages from Jenny, who really solidified the whole and just really reiterated from a whole different angle that which my acupuncturist and I had been talking about, and Jenny knew nothing about it. It's like, okay, I'm getting the same message from multiple places. It's time to really embrace that. That's power, embracing your own message instead of the message that's coming from society, maybe. So step into that power, whatever that is for you. Maybe your body isn't telling you to slow down. There's one individual I know who is always on the go. Now, frankly, I'm sorry, there's only so much adrenal support herbs you can shove into your body just so you can keep going because you feel like you need to be doing. That particular individual may end up on their ass at some point, because you have to listen to what's required of your body, listen to your spirit, what's required of you in this moment. That's that place of power right there.
I love it. That sounds like a scrumptious place to pause. Till next time. What do you think?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for hanging out and giggling and hopefully learning and having powerful transformations with us. And we will talk to you guys next time.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.